This is going to be lesson 8, factoring trinomials. And the trinomials we're going to factor is going to have this format: a number in front of the x squared, a number in front of the x, and a number without x. So let's, for example, I have this problem right here. This problem falls into this category because there's a number from the x squared, a number from the x, and a number without x. So basically, first thing I need to ask is, can I factor anything from all three terms? And the answer is no, I cannot. But then what I can do is I take the first and last term and I multiply. 4 times 5 is 20. And then I break it down as 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 3 does not go into 20, so we skip number 3 and go to number 4 and 5, and the next number will be 5, but 5 is already a member of the group, so we stop. So in other words, once the numbers start repeating, you can stop the list. Okay, now that I have the numbers that multiply give me 20, I'm going to focus my attention on the middle term. The middle term is 12, and my question is, which of these pairs of numbers will give me 12? For example, 5 plus 4 does not give me 12, give me 9. 5 minus 4 gives me 1, not 12, so that doesn't work. But if I look at 2 and 10, 2 and 10 give me 12 if I add 2 plus 10. So I know I'm going to pick this one right here. Now, I need to decide on the signs of these numbers. To decide that, again, you focus your attention on the middle term. The middle term is positive, so the biggest digit will be positive. And if this is positive 10, and I want positive 12, what's the sign of 2 have to be? Sign of 2 have to be positive, because positive 10 plus 2 gives me a positive 12. Now, final check. You need to make sure that when you multiply a positive, this sign right here, positive times a positive, does it give me the sign of the third term over here? So a positive times a positive, does it give me a positive? Yes, it does. So that means these two numbers pass the test, so then I can proceed to the next step of factoring this trinomial, which is you're going to copy the first term, you're going to break down the middle term as using these two numbers that we found, so plus 2x and positive 10x. Notice that I'm putting the x here, that you don't see here, but basically what I'm doing is I'm splitting 12 as 2x plus 10x, because 2x plus 10x equals 12. Alright, now let's bring down the 5. And let's look at the first two terms and the last two terms. What can I factor from the first two terms? I can factor a 2x, and if I do 4x squared divided by 2x, I'm going to get 2x, and the next one is going to be 2x divided by 2x is positive 1. Then I bring down the positive. And what can I factor from 10x and 5x? I can factor out a 5. So 10x divided by 5 will be 2x. And 5 divided by 5 will be a positive 1. Now that I have these two terms, what do they have in common? They have in common 2x plus 1. And if I factor out the 2x plus 1, I'm left with 2x plus 5. And that's my answer. Okay. Now, the cool thing about factoring is that you can always check your answer. So basically, by multiplying this back, if this is correct, it should give me back my original problem. So let's try that. If I multiply this back, it's like foiling. So FOIL is first times first gives you 4x squared. The outside times the outside gives you the outer number here, positive 10x. The inside times the inside gives you the inner number here. And 2x plus 10x equals 12x. And now I'm going to do last times last. So last times last is positive 5. And as you can see, I got the same problem as the original problem. So that's a way to check that I got the right answer. Okay? Alright, very well. Let's proceed to letter B. Again, we asked ourselves, what can we factor from all three? And there's nothing I can factor from all three. So then I'll take the first and the last, and I'm going to multiply. So 6 times 1 is 6. Then you're going to make a list of numbers that give you 6, starting with number 1. So 1 goes into 6 times. After 1 comes 2. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 3 goes into 6. Well, 3 is already there, so we know we have finished the list. So you don't have to use number 3. See, if you start seeing numbers that is already on part of the group, you don't have to continue. Is an indicator that you can stop the list. Alright, now we're going to look at the middle term, negative 5. I want a 5. So which one of these pairs give me a 5? Well, 2 and 3, if you add these two together, will give you a 5. And the 6 and 1 will also give you a 5 when you subtract. So they're both of these pairs are a possibility. So let's check the signs. The sign of the middle term is a negative. So that means the biggest digits of these pairs will be negative. So 6 will be negative, 3 will be negative. Very well. Now my goal is to have a negative 5. So in order to have a negative 5, the 2 would have to be a negative, because negative 2, negative 3 gives me a negative 5. And for the 6, the 1 would have to be a positive to give me a negative 5, because positive 1 minus 6 you would subtract and you get a 5, and negative 5 because 6 is the biggest. Alright, very well. So they both pass these tests. The final test is the last sign right here. If I take these two signs and I multiply a negative times a negative, does it give me a positive? Yes, it passed the test. A negative times a positive gives me a positive? No, it doesn't. So this one fails the test. So in other words, which one is the pair of numbers that I want to use to factor this trinomial? The numbers are negative 2 and negative 3. So now we're going to copy the first term, which would be 6x squared. We're going to break down the middle term as negative 2x, negative 3x, and we're going to bring down the positive 1. With that, now we're going to group them in pairs. And what can I factor from the first two? I can factor a 2x. And 6x squared divided by 2x gives me 3x. And negative 2x divided by 2x equals negative 1. Now I'm going to bring down that negative. And what can I factor from 3x and 1? I can factor out a 1. So negative 3x divided by negative x is 3x, and positive 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. Very well. Now what can I factor from these two? I can factor out a 3x minus 1, and I factor out that, I'm left with 2x minus 1. and that would be my answer. Okay. Alright, again, we can use a scratch piece of paper here and double check our answers. You don't have to, but just letting you know that you can always check that. So if you're in doubt in the test, if you made any mistakes, you can always double check by using FOIL. First times first gives you 6x squared. The outer numbers give me negative 3x. The inner number gives me negative 2x. And when I combine these two together, I'll get negative 5x. And then I'll do less times less, which is positive 1. And does that match my original problem? Yes, it does. So that's confirmation that my answer is correct. Alright, let's continue on to letter C. Letter C again. Ask yourself, first question should always be, can I factor anything from all three terms? The answer is no. So then proceed to multiply the first times the last. So it would be 12 times 5, and 12 times 5 is 60. And then create a list of numbers that give you 60. So 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, 6 and 10. Now number 7 does not go into 60, number 8 does not go into 60, number 9 does not go into 60, and then the next number will be 10, but 10 is already part of the group, so we're done with our list. Next step is we're looking for a pair of numbers that's going to give us 17. So we notice that 5 and 12 give us 17, and so does 20 and 3. So now we're going to look for the sign. The sign will be the same. The sign of the biggest will be the same as the middle term. So this would be positive and positive. And now our goal is to get 17. So what does the sign of 5 have to be to give me 17? It would be positive. And what does the sign of 3 have to be to give me positive 17? It would be negative, because positive 20 minus 3 gives me positive 17. Final check. The last sign, when I multiply these two signs, I should get the last sign. A positive times a positive. Positive, does it give me a negative? No, it doesn't. So let's cross it out. That doesn't work. A positive times a negative, does it give me a negative? Yes, it does. So that's the numbers that I want to use. So with that in mind, let's come back to our problem, bring down the first term. We're going to split 17x as negative 3x and positive 20x. And let's bring down the negative 5. Alright, now that we have them, we're going to group them in pairs. So what can we factor from the first two? Can factor out of 3x. So 12x squared divided by 3x is 4x. Negative 3x divided by 3x is negative 1. I'm going to bring down the positive. What can I factor from the last two? It would be a 5. 20x divided by 5 is 4x. Negative 5 divided by 5 will be negative 1. What can I do to what can I factor from these two terms? Basically, I can factor 4x minus 1, and what is got left is 3x plus 5. So that would be my answer for my factorization. Okay, let's go on and proceed to problem letter D. Again, the first question you want to ask is, can I factor anything from all three? And there's nothing that I can factor from all three terms. So I'm going to multiply the first term, the first number times the last. So this would be 35 times 4. And 35 times 4 will be, let me calculate here. It will be 140. So, and I want to demonstrate here with the calculator that you can create the list very fast with your calculator by doing the following. 140 divided by 1 is 140. So that's part of your list. Then you do 140 divided by 2. You got 70. So that's part of your list. 140 divided by 3, that gives me a decimal. So 3 is not part of the list. 140 divided by 4 is 35, so it's part of my list. 140 divided by 5 is 28. That's a whole number, so it's part of my list. 140 divided by 6 gives me a decimal, so 6 is not part of my list. 140 divided by 7 is 20. Alright. And 140 divided by 8 is 17.5, so it doesn't work. 140 divided by 9 is 15.5, doesn't work. 140 divided by 10 is 14. Alright, so 140 divided by 11 equals a decimal. 140 divided by 12 is another decimal. 140 divided by 13, decimal. And the next number will be 14, but 14 is already on the list, so we know we have finished the list. So that's how you could use your calculator to help you create that list. Okay. Alright. Now, we're looking for the middle term 4. Okay, we're looking for a pair of numbers that will give us 4 if we add and subtract. And that pair would be 10 and 14. And that will be it. Then we'll look for the sign. Sign of the middle term is negative. So that means the biggest digit here, the 14, will be negative. And if that's negative 14, and I want negative 4, that means the 10 would have to be a positive. Final check. A negative times a positive, is it equal a positive? No, it isn't. So that means this fails the last test. And because I don't have any other pair that gives me 4, then I will write that this problem is a prime. It's prime. Because the only thing you can factor is a 1. Okay? Alright. So let's go on to the next page now. So let me get a copy of the next page. It should be on page number 7. And we're going to start with problem letter E. Alright. As always, first question should be, can I factor anything from all 3? And the answer is yes. On this problem I can factor out a 3. And can I factor out a letter from these 3 terms? Yes, I can factor out an x also. And I believe that's it. So now, let's divide. 6xy squared divided by 3x gives you 2y squared. 33xy divided by 3x gives you 11y. And negative 18x divided by 3x equals negative 6. So if you notice, I was able to factor out a 3 and an x. Now that I have that, let's factor these guys right here. Alright, so this would be 2 and 6. So 2 times 6 equals 12. And what are the numbers give me 12? 1 and 12. 2 and 6. 3 and 4. And that will be it, because the next number will be a 4. So now we're looking for numbers that give me 11. So it would be 12 and then 1. Sign of 12 would be positive, because 11 is positive. And the 1 would have to be a negative. And final check. A positive times a negative gives me the last term. Yes, it does. So this would be 3x, and you're going to copy the first term, and you're going to break it down this as negative 1y plus 12y, and you're going to bring down the negative 6. Now just keep writing this 3x that is on the outside, and we're going to factor by grouping on the inside. So what can I factor from the first two? I can factor out a y, and if I factor out y, 2y squared divided by y is 2y. Negative 1y divided by y would be negative 1. Bring down the positive. What can I factor from 12y and 6? I can factor out a 6. 12y divided by 6 is 2y. And negative 6 divided by 6 is negative 1. Alright, very well. Now, we'll keep copying the number in the front, 3x. And what can I factor from what's inside the... What can I factor from inside the bracket? I can factor 2y minus 1. And if I factor that out, what is left? Y plus 6. And that's going to be my answer. Okay. Alright, let's proceed on to letter F. Again, as always, ask yourself, can I factor anything from all three terms? And the answer is no. But there's something different about this problem. This problem starts with a negative, and it's always best not to start with a negative there. So in order to get rid of that negative, we're going to factor out a negative, and that way that will force the first term to be a positive. So negative 5x squared divided by negative is 5x squared. Negative 19x divided by negative is positive 19x. And positive 4 divided by negative is negative 4. Alright, now inside the parentheses, we're going to factor the trinomial. 5 times 4 is 20. Numbers give me 20 is 1 and 20. 2 and 10. 3 does not go into 20. 4 and 5. And after that comes 5, and 5 is already part of the list, so we stop right there. Now, we're looking for a number that gives us 19. And the numbers that will give 19 is 20 and 1. And the sign of the biggest will be positive because 19 is positive. And if this is positive 20 and I want 19, then the one would have to be negative. So now you're going to copy the negative. You're going to copy the first term. And you're going to break this down into two terms, which is going to be negative 1x, positive 20x, and bring down the negative 4. Now, we're going to group by factor by grouping. What can I factor from the first two? I can factor an x. And 5x squared divided by x is 5x. Negative 1x divided by x is negative 1. Bring down the positive. And what can I factor from the last two? I can factor out a 4. So 20x divided by 4 is 5x. Negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1. Now, bring down the negative, and inside the bracket, what can I factor? 5x minus 1. And if I remove the 5x minus 1, I'm left with x plus 4. And that will be my factorization for this problem. Alright, this concludes the examples for lesson number 8. Thank you very much for your time, and have a great day.